in, and he's trying to like document what he can from like of his culture and his experiences with his culture over here. Uh, and that kind of overlaps with uh world building in the sense that like sometimes you just have to make shit up, like it's you are kind of world building, it's just from things that actually exist and as you get the pieces.
Yeah, like I experienced that because used to do reality shifting, and I was like, yeah,
Mhm.
this seems to be more like. Well, okay, let me break it down. Let me start this event. Actually, because we're still in the lounge, it's in the panel room. Oh wait,
Okay.
yeah. Uh, I had a past headmate because I'm an empty
Mhm.
system now, so they're gone.
Yeah.
Um, who reality shifted, and that was their whole thing, and they
Mhm.
felt more comfortable there because they believed, oh, this is my actual home. So when I'm
Mhm.
learning the language, when I'm writing stuff down, when I'm quote unquote creating things, I'm saying I'm as in, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
When they're doing that, it's not entirely world building them. It's more of like picking up the pieces they left off.
Yeah. Yeah, you get it.
Okay. All right. Um, I don't have a script. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do not have a script, mainly because I was just. Oh, okay. If we, I'm looking at the chat right now. Mainly because I was just busy with other things, trying to figure out what am I to do. Blah, 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 blah. I've been wanting to talk about this topic for a while because me and Haunted were having a conversation earlier, and they brought up, oh, I have a headmate who technically does world building, but not technically because it's like their culture and it's already happened, but it's more like picking up the pieces. And we both had like a an agreement about it because we saw eye to eye. Because I'm an empty system now, but before I had a bunch of different people from a specific alternative reality because I did reality shifting. Um, and so because of that, I decided, hey, I feel like my experiences as somebody who has had not existed until they left, I feel like my experiences in this body are still present, as in everything they did, the way they speak, the way they talk, um, everything they did is still comprised within the body. So it's natural to me. So again, reality shifting would be natural to me. Shifting would be natural to me. It's more of a um like a something they pass down in sort of a way. So one of the major things they had done was create a con culture. Okay. So in world building, in some sects of world building, a con culture is a constructed culture specifically for fictional settings, fictional species, etc., etc. So said con culture, it's a lot of yeah. Said con culture is very it's vast. It's not something you can really describe because of the same way you can describe culture in many different ways. but you'll always have a disagreement with somebody over what the fundamental thing culture is made out of. Because a lot of people consider culture to be faith, others don't. A lot of people consider culture to be um, a country, others don't. Which is what comes from, like, just different backgrounds, people having different beliefs. So a con culture would be of the same. But because it's constructed, it's a lot easier to know where it comes from, how to pinpoint it exactly, and what role it plays in somebody's life. If I had to describe myself within the furry community, I would probably say that I am a post furry, which is a term referring to people who either take furry too seriously or not serious at all. At all. And between those two, there's, like, how I perceive it specifically, it's either too serious or not serious at all because it's intrinsic as an identity. Post furry is more of an identity that you have, which is why you don't make such of a big hoo ha about it. And for most people, most post furries, I've been in a server full of them. They are literally the kindest people I've ever met. What? And it's like, oh, I found this subculture of people. And then I look deeper. I look at websites, I look at history, I look at writings. Then I start to see that they're identifying as what they create. Most of them tend to be fantasy prone. If you know me, I am fantasy prone. Um, though it is not a recognized disorder, I believe that I have fantasy prone disorder. That's just not me creating a disorder. That's just I have disordered forms of this lifelong fantasy. And because of that, I have, like, bad memory, the way I talk to people, how I interact with the world, it's all different than somebody else would. It's so strange because when you've been told that you're not supposed to be in this fantasy and you can't identify with it, or even if you believe it's not a fantasy all the way, and you intrinsically say, hey, this is me, it existed at one point in, mythology or history, I want to represent this, but I want to do it my way. To me, this is something I found, not something I created. That's usually how people approach con cultures. In post furries, they tend to do that too. A lot of them were identifying as what they had created. I shared that sentiment. I was very, very in my element when I was in that server. I, I was happy. I was like, yeah, there's other people who are fantasy prone. And it's not seen as this evil thing where I'm always in my head. It's not seen as a daydream. It's not seen as this and that. It's seen as, oh, we can't separate these two between fantasy and reality. You might as well accept fantasy in order to create reality. I've seen pictures where they are celebrating fictional cultures they have created, and I was confused for a bit because I was like, distancing myself to see, how the server would work. It turns out that I was really happy to be there, even though I left the server, unrelated, but I was happy to be there. That is why I consider myself a post furry, because it is how I am. The con culture, the con language, the creation of things related to oneself, where you have the liberty and the freedom to do whatever you want based around a different species, mainly non human, or even an object. That was what I wanted. Even if I couldn't stay in the server and find it there, mainly because I was like, I have too many servers. I gotta get rid of them. Some of them gotta go. I can't. There's too many. But beyond that, even if I felt like I could stay in there, I had enough knowledge and I did enough research to see that this was what I was supposed to be doing. That brings us to, the subject. Non-human gender. So usually people describe gender as two halves, a binary. That's usually if you walk up to anybody who is just depends on the place, depends on the laws, everything. If you ask somebody what is gender on Tumblr, they're going to give you a answer that is not binary, and it's because of, again, the area, where you're asking, how you're asking, and what you're asking for. What is gender? Those answers will be unique. And because it's so unique, nobody really has one specific way to define gender. Gender can be anything. Now that we have, what we have, culture and queer knowledge, and we have wikis, and we have people who coin terms, and we have people who coin flags, gender can be literally anything. And the one thing I barely see are genders that are just animal. Not in animal gender or fauna gender, because those are terms that exist. Xenogenders, not just xenogenders, but non-human gender. I barely see a, I don't know. Let's make up a random man, all right? I barely see a 30-year-old dog shifter or dogkin calling themselves a sire if they are a father. I barely see that. I barely see a um what's another term? I barely see like any other person using non-human terms from their species they are on themselves. I don't see that. I don't see somebody being a sire. I don't see, obviously, we're not gonna get into each and every one, but I don't see people using those terms. Yeah, like I barely see these terms. I would have like never known that. I barely see people using these terms. They're complex. It's hard to, because I feel like there's a disconnect between the body, because those non-human terms refer to non-human bodies, and that changes completely when it comes to us, when it comes to people like us. That changes completely the way we see our bodies, the way we physically shift, the way everything works. That changes a lot. I'm not saying that other Canantherians don't see their bodies as such. I'm saying that we see our bodies as such. And so, because of that, that's the main reason you may be a shifter, because you physically have, physically non-human, you are physically that. Because of that, it's harder to contain yourself to human genders, to genders that are human. Yeah, like, you could call yourself a fledgling. Like, those terms refer to you specifically. But a lot of people don't use those terms unless it's talking about their species, not their gender. I I always have these feelings of reality shifting, and that I still have the ability to do so. I believe that if you have the ability to do so, because I am fantasy prone, it's a lot easier for me to do it. If you have the ability and you feel like you want to escape at least 30 minutes of your day, an hour, go study, go do it, come back, learn a new culture from like an alien world. Do it, because that's what my past headmates did. They did it, and they realized, oh, I'm not learning anything because I'm already from there. I'm from that reality. I just have to bring it over to the real life. For me, because I'm not a creature of this earth. I don't because I am not one. In definition, I am not a creature. I am an object, I am a concept, I am magic itself. Because of that, it is harder for me to have a way to discuss gender that is specifically based on pre existing animal terms. I do not feel, let's say, comfortable. I don't feel comfortable calling myself a sire as somebody who is not a dog. Like, that's just how it is. I don't feel comfortable calling myself any other term other than what's related to who I am. And that's why I feel like gender, for a lot of non-humans, for a lot of shifters in general, not just p shifters, shape shifters in general, will be unique to them, because their forms are different, their bodies are different, how they perceive the earth is different, because how they physically interact with the world is different. And because of that difference, it's harder for us to put into words, hey, we want terminology to describe ourselves. We may not have that terminology, and it would be nice if you respected that terminology when we create it. The thing about con culture and conlangs are that most people do not respect them because they are created, which, I'm going to be honest, all cultures and languages are created. It's just that conlang and con culture describes the individual creation of said aspect. So conlang usually doesn't exist with a culture, with a nation, with anything. Because of that, it's not seen as real. And I've already settled with the fact that people will just not respect that. Even if I do say, oh, well, I'm going to put it in wikis, I'm going to make sure you hear about it, I'm going to make sure that I get this, legally changed in 100 years, where I'm able to be who I want. I don't care. even if I do all of that, I am always going to be in the back of my head saying, people do not care. Most people don't care about gender, but when it's non-human, when it's anything that is dehumanizing, if you use its pronouns, people will not use it. And that's unfortunate. That's sad. I don't want that. I don't want that. So to have a space where yeah, Tokipona? I feel like a lot of people relate to Tokipona because of it's screen recording this too, so whatever you say, okay? um for Tokipona, I feel like Tokipona is probably popular among alter humans because of the script. One of the script it uses, I forget. And a lot of people enjoy when when animals are depicted in a script. So when they, they look like animals. Yeah, that. A lot of people like. Is it the raccoon one? Is that is it the raccoon, the one for, not the one for the animal, but the one that's yeah, the raccoon. People like it when there's animals everywhere. People like it when there's animals. Animals are cute. A lot of people say animals will be cute. That's just how it is. That one. Uh, I recently played a Tokipona game, and it's just you play as like an animal, a beast, and it's just that simple, and you walk around, and it's like, what am I playing? Anyway, um, yeah, a lot of people won't respect how you are because it's seen as non-human, it's dehumanizing. It's not something they think will ever be quote unquote a thing in real life, unquote. It's it's complex. Having spaces like this is a way that most non-humans, physical non-humans, because this is specific to physical non-humans, not exclusive, but it's specific because of the situation. Um, because of how it is, communities like this, I feel as though they will respect it more than anyone else. Even other people outside, even other people who may be non-physically human or who may be anything else, trans, cis, etc., queer, they might not see it eye to eye. They don't have to believe, but they might not see it eye to eye, and they may push back. I want to create spaces where people aren't being pushed back for having an identity. That's the main thing. I am somebody who does not care what you identify as long as it's not illegal. Okay? You can walk up to me and say, hey, I'm a serial killer, and I genuinely would not care. Unless you are somebody who has cases against them. I wouldn't care. Most people, I would say most people in the server, that's a generalization, but I would say most people in the server probably don't care what you identify as. Because identity is so complex that it's hard to gatekeep it, to one specific identity, one specific group, unless it's cultural, unless it's religious, unless it's um, something like this. Um, I feel as though a lot of people create genders for others, and they don't exactly fall into the group of creating for themselves. I'm somebody who creates for themselves. Even if I want to share things with others, I feel as though somebody has already done it. And I am not entirely I'm not entirely, I don't feel compelled to put myself out there to create a term and such for people who I don't know. To me, my identity is more intrinsic. It's something I can only understand. It is something I can only get because that is who I am. If I do share it with other people, it will be within the confines of the system or within a support group who has a matching identity, who completely understands me, who doesn't always have to agree with me because I don't like people who always agree with me. Okay? I am I like people of different beliefs, different genders, different weird freakness. Okay? I like people across the spectrum. I don't care. You don't have to agree with me. And people who genuinely just don't want to start arguments about identity. That's it. So in this situation, I would technically only be sharing with myself because there is nobody who exactly matches the energy I put out. And if they do, they're probably not physically non-human, which is unfortunate. And they probably would not get it. So I had been planning to do this for a long time because it's been on the back burner. Um, and I decided, hey, I might as well just make a panel about it because, yeah, I think I need to make a panel about it. This is something that I should talk about. I don't know if it's gonna move anybody, but I have one thing. This. This here is a template. I created this template specifically for you all, for anyone, literally anyone. I'm most likely going to be posting this on the official Shifter Northeast Tumblr, most likely. I created this because I wanted to jot down my ideas and how I experience gender. Because, again, gender can be anything. There are, I believe, for the approach to gender, for creating gender, I broke it down like this. So I broke it down from the name of the gender, the type, which is the binary, trinary, non-binary. You don't have to fit this. You can say NA. They don't have to be in any binary or trinary or non-binary or non-trinary. They don't have to fit into anything. I genuinely don't want people to have to fit into the binary, trinary, non-binary. But this is, you're creating a gender that resonates with you related to your species or the fictional culture or the mythology culture. If your mythological identity and who you are does not have a gender and you feel as though your gender cannot be confined to xenogender fauna genders or human genders, you might as well try this. This is the best I have. I broke it down to the function and roles in the culture. I have checkboxes that say, is it sex based? Is it based on presentation, as in masculine, feminine? I left boxes for symbols, terminology, and pronoun groups. And the big box in the corner with the white outline is for a picture of your choosing. A picture of the species, a picture of you, a picture of whatever, it does not matter. Um, A picture of the symbol of the gender. It's whatever you want. It is whatever you want. So you see the first image is what I filled out. You can see the picture in the corner, which is a star. It's a 5-pointed star with 5 points. It's 5-pointed with 5 other sections. Because I'm doing this, and because I feel more aligned with creation, this came relatively easy for me. But it still felt euphoric because I knew what I was doing. I knew how I was feeling. I knew how to express that. Because a lot of people do not express gender in a way that is entirely human. And for me, the function and roles in the culture, in the species, it was age, it was power scale. Because the species of magic that has eyes and that can talk most likely does not care about genitalia. So, of course, it's not sex based. Of course, it's not presentation based. Of course, it's not. I didn't check those off. Of course, it wouldn't. So, the name of the gender that I have created, it's called May. So, Maey. It's a type of caffeinable, which is a term I coined to mean any term or any gender, any term, any gender that is intrinsic to you, specific to you, and is only tied to you. It is to be used by people who are caffeine, which is a gender that can only be described by your personality and your state of being. It cannot fit into binary, trinary, non-binary, non-trinary, or any other gender modality. Caffeine itself is who you are by itself without anything. It is what made you, how you present. If your presentation is a mix of it, it is factors in your life that made you feel this way. It is every single thing. It is unique, which means it is the individual who experiences it, not a group. You cannot group caffeine into male, female, non-binary, atrinary, etc. You cannot group them into anything because it is not a group. They fit into every single category, but that does not mean they are of that category. So if I say, hey, and I use the word, if I say, hey, I'm a lesbian, but I'm not a woman and I'm not non-binary, that will raise a few things. They will then ask, are you a man? I will say, no, I'm actually a caffeine. I fit into everything, even if I am not said thing. It's fluid, but it's not gender fluid. It's fluid because of your personality. It's fluid because of you. It is distinct. It is not everything. It is also everything at once. Something like that. Um, uh, so the function and roles in the culture, its age and power scale, and the pronoun groups reflect that. So thy, them, their, themself, that's premature. It usually means anyone who is not an adult. Which also means your power level is not it's more of low power. See, say, seer, siem, that's an adult. Your power level most likely would be the middle power. They all reflect each other in some way, while also being able to be moved around and changed. Viva ver veraf, that's ancient. That means you've been here for as long as time. And that there's a possibility that you are either a high power or the highest power. So if we want to say it like this, all children would be would use the pronouns thy. All adults would use the pronoun si. All ancients would use the pronoun vi. And because it's used for age and power scale, the terminology is going to reflect that too. Thaya, which is child, Sira, which is adult, Vala, which is elder, Kirti, which is low power, which means you don't have much power, Ambly, which is middle power, Tontai, which is high power, and Labli, which is highest power. They all have symbols. Everything is symboled in the corner. And when I was doing this, it didn't feel like I was creating anything. This just felt like who I am. This felt like who I was. I wasn't forcing it. I wasn't trying to be anything else but that. And I was like, okay, I already have this within me. This feels normal. And there are a lot of ways people could see this and say, well, it just seems like you don't want to be categorized in anything, that this is a choice. And I would probably say that's not a choice. Choices are when you actively feel like this is something you want to do just because. There may be a deeper reason, but usually it's just because you're able to. Without the resources, without the community, I most likely wouldn't be able to do this. This is not something I am going to always be able to do. This is not something, because our community is so small, it is not something I can always do. It is not something I can always say, hey, we should do this. And we should have a group and we should have people. Because the culture around shifting, the culture around being physically non-human, it's going to be left in the dust if we don't pick all that up, especially in peace shifting circles where most of our history ends 5 years in the past. Most of the stuff that we have now is either being recorded poorly or has been erased because of history, because of conflict within communities, because of people sites shutting down, because of archives not working, because of things failing. And so I don't want to be the one where I don't have anything intrinsic to me just because I forget to archive it. No, it shouldn't be archiving anymore. We should be creating. Creativity is the way most communities start. It is how most communities exist. Without that creation, you are absolutely going to find yourself in a slump trying to reuse ideas from other people, from other communities, and you will get lost, you will get confused. Which is why I did what I did. This is why I created this, so other people can have this resource. Even if they don't use it, they can share it. I don't care what you do with it, as long as you use it for its intended purpose and you understand that this is creation, that people will feel happy if they have this resource. Like when I was drawing the graph that represents magic, I was stuck on two of these: nature and action. I was unsure if I wanted nature to be here. I was unsure if I wanted action to be here. Because blood, mind, spirit is that's natural. That's natural. That's something that I know. The first one I even filled out in the purple was spirit. Because spirit magic, because that is what me me. So that's the first thing I saw, and I had to check myself. I said, why would I write body in the green? Write blood. And then I wrote blood, and it felt right. And then I continued on. The next one was mind. That makes sense. Action? Action didn't feel right at first, but I realized that mind and action are not opposites, that your mind is your nature. And then I had completed it, and I was like, this feels right. Because without one of them, all of them don't feel right. Without all of them right in front of me, without action, blood, mind, spirit, nature, what makes up the body, without that, you are in fact missing one piece. The same thing with water, fire, air, cosmos, and earth. You're missing one piece. I was missing cosmos. I was confused. I didn't know whether or not I wanted metal to be there. But I realized that this is more than just metal, this is everything. When I look at this graph, I'm looking at magic. I cannot look at it as if this is a human body. No. Blood can refer to anything. But this is what magic consists of: cosmos, earth, water, fire, elements, and then the different ways. And because of that, I couldn't feel connected to using this chart in the functions and roles in the culture, in the pronouns and terminology and the symbols. I couldn't use this as if it was sex based. I was like, why why would they have any of those things? If Even if they have a mind, even if they have a spirit, even if they have a nature, even if they're feral, even if they can act, even if they have blood, even if they have a body, even if they have blood, no matter whether or not they're in each and every category or they only have one, why would they have those things? Like it's hard. I don't it's hard to have these things and then feel like I connect with humans and other non-humans who have put themselves into human boxes. I don't feel like I connect with you. It doesn't matter though. We can chill. We can just hang out. There's nothing wrong with that. But when I talk to someone eye to eye, I don't see them looking at me the way I see myself. And that's how I can tell there's a disconnect between me and what their perception of me is. Because mostly see myself as I have described. Other people will not. This comes full circle for the non-human gender. People will not see your gender because of it. Most people will assume that because I use the word gender, it has close ties to sex, which is not true. And it has close ties to presentation, which is not true. Most of them do, but it is not true. So, when it comes to certain animals are, they're all fundamentally the same when it comes to ants. Ants, apparently, they change what they are during development. So they all start out the same, but the different organs, different pheromones, different environments change them into workers and soldiers and etc. Certain ants who are able to have a certain diet, certain ants who are able to have a certain environment may end up becoming queen one day. And it's not, to me, when I look at that, it's not based off of genitalia. And I was like, yeah, yeah, I think more people should do this. I think gender should be based off of anything other than what your body has. And we should separate that by telling people, hey, my gender isn't like yours, and I'm proud of that. Instead of trying to hide that, instead of trying to put down the pen and close your websites, you should talk about how being non-human affects you more than just your urges, more than just how you feel, more than just how you see yourself, more than just how you see outside. It should be all of those things, including how other people see you, how you are perceived, how people look at you, how you interact with the world, how they interact with you. It should be deeper than just, you know, the simple. It should be deeper than that. I feel like a lot of people should talk more about physical non-humanity in essays. I want to see more essays. I don't want to have to keep reading otherkin and Therian essays to get information about a community that is not mine. When I read these essays, when I do these things, I do not want to see rehashed versions of Therian and otherkin concepts and ideas. I want to see new things. I want to see creation. I want to see joy. I know that most peace shifters genuinely don't feel comfortable being known to the public. That is fine. There is nothing I can do about that. I cannot force you to say, hey, I'm going to go do that. I can't force you to do that. No one is going to force you to do that. I hope no one does that. But I want people, I want to see joy. I want to see creation. I want to see people embrace things. I want to see people talk about what their skin feels like, what it feels like to be here from a deeper standpoint than just trying to rip it off. I want to see people live with it. I want to see people create things because of it. I want to see how people define their body, define the different parts of their body in different non-human ways. I want to see creation. I want to see joy. I want to see embracing the animality without fear. Because I know a lot of people have fear. And it's usually the fear of what will happen if I say something? What will happen if I out myself to the public? What will happen if I out myself to a group who does not like people like me? People are afraid. I'm not I'm not saying that you shouldn't be afraid or you should be afraid. I'm saying that your fear is going to step on you and you just have to stab the foot over and over and over and over until you are out of it and you don't care what people say, because at the end of the day it will just be you. Hopefully it's not just you alone when you go, but one day there is a possibility that it will just be you, and what you leave behind should be creation. It should be essays, it should be how you feel, it should be everything other than just words from other people. That's all I really have. Thank you though.